What's going on out there? Kip here with Omnia Fishing, and today we're back with yet another rod bending, and this one's pretty cool. In our last rod bending video, a viewer left a comment asking for minnow shaking rods, but specifically from budget all the way to the best money can get. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're starting around $100, and we're going to go up $100 for 5 rods. So $100-ish, $200-ish, $300, $400, and then the best money can buy. But we're starting with a rod that, unfortunately, you've already seen. A couple weeks ago, we did best budget rods and picked this exact rod, a Croix Bass X 6/8 medium extra fast. And in that video, I said that it would be an awesome budget minnow shaking rod, and that hasn't changed. So for our $100 rod, $100-ish rod, we're going with the Croix Bass X 6/8 medium extra fast. Came in at 3.5 ounces for a $100 rod. That's pretty light. You're not going to see much lighter in the rest of this video either. But the Bass X line has been much more popular than the previous version. Made some big improvements to the guide train, yada, yada, yada. But this would be a sweet minnow shaking rod. Let's take it to the rod wall, check out the action. All right, here we are with that Croix Bass X 6/8 medium extra fast. I bent this one a couple weeks ago, so no surprises here, but it does have that super light tip all the way at the end of the rod. And then when you load it up, you do get into some backbone. This is a rod that I think would work well for most minnow sizes out there. I'd say you go all the way down to 3-inch up to 6, 7-inch minnows if you want, depending on the weight of the jig head. But this is like your do-all minnow shaking rod. The 6/8 medium extra fast is just, in my opinion, perfect power, action to do just a little bit of everything. So if you're on a budget and you're looking for one rod to handle most of your forward-facing sonar techniques, the Croix Bass X 6/8 medium extra fast is a great choice. I wouldn't sleep on these rods for $100, $130. All right, next up is a cool one from Evergreen. This is in their Combat Stick series, $200 rod, flat, $199.99. And this is the 610 medium extra fast. This is labeled as their gizmo/power finesse rod. If you've seen the gizmo, it's a super interesting bait. We sell them here, but it's a very small kind of topwater lure that you're gonna need a spinning rod to throw. And this was perfect for that. It's got a really light tip with some backbone, but before forward-facing sonar came to be as popular as it is now, this was the gizmo rod. Turns out it makes an awesome minnow shaking rod as well. So I had to switch the name from just the gizmo rod to gizmo power finesse. But really cool rod. It's got a really soft tip on it, and then it hits some serious backbone. So the 610 medium extra fast Evergreen Combat Stick came in at 4 ounces. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but it does have some more meat on it. It's got quite a bit of power. So let's take it to the rod wall and check out this thing's specs. All right, back with the Evergreen Combat Stick 610 medium extra fast gizmo/power finesse rod, and pretty cool action on it. Just imparting a little bit of power here. Just that tip section's flexing, which is what you want when you're shaking a minnow. You want just the tip to impart action on your presentation. But then when you set the hook on a fish, you want to get the backbone quick, especially with your bigger minnows, which is what I think this would shine at. Even though it's the same power rating as that Croix, I think it has a lot more backbone. This would excel for your 5, 6, 7, 8-inch minnows. It's got a ton of power, like the name suggests, and a really light tip. So casting's not going to be an issue, even with if you're throwing a lighter head with that minnow. But some of those minnows can weigh up to close to an ounce. So those 7, 8-inch Sakamata shads, those are heavy baits. And I think this is a rod that would be able to handle those. The 610 medium extra fast combat stick from Evergreen, cool option for your bigger minnows. For those of you who have been looking for the perfect forward-facing sonar do-all rod, you've probably come across this one in your search. This is the X Pride from Shimano. This one is the 610 medium heavy solid tip rod. So that solid tip section creates almost like a dual action in this rod, which is pretty cool. But these have been extremely popular in the industry and here at Omnia especially. They come in 2 models, the 610 medium heavy, which is what we got here, and the 610 medium. The medium is probably the more versatile of the two, and it's probably the more popular of the two, which is why we are sold out at the moment. So we're talking about the medium heavy. No slouch of a rod here, especially if you like throwing those bigger minnows. So the 610 medium heavy solid tip X Pride comes in at 3.2 ounces. Super lightweight for a 610 medium heavy rod. And that's no surprise with these X Pride lines. Said it before, Pete said it in the past. They knocked it out of the park with these. So let's take it to the wall. 610 medium heavy solid tip X Pride. All right, we're back with that 610 medium heavy solid tip X Pride. And it's a little bit different than what I expected. I expected that solid tip to be super fast. You know, a lot of the other solid tip rods in the market are extra fast. But when you give this just a little bit of power, the tip does dance on you a little bit, but really when you load it up, it has more of a moderate bend, which is cool, because as useful as a super extra fast rod is for shaking a minnow, helping impart action, it's not the best action for landing fish. So if you can find a rod that does both, that's when your landing percentage is going to go through the roof and ultimately help you catch more fish. But another cool feature about this rod, or something that I've noticed, is it's labeled as a medium heavy, but this blank is super thin. So it does have quite a bit of power, but I wouldn't be afraid to throw, go all the way down to like a 4-inch minnow on this with a 1/8 ounce head, no problem, maybe even lighter. But this rod could do just about everything. Again, I think that 610 medium is the more popular one, the one that can do maybe a little bit more, but this one's right up there for sure. Nice light tip on it, more of a moderate bend. It's gonna land more fish for you. Really impressed with these X Prides, especially the solid tips. They're hard to find, but if you've been looking for that 610 medium, don't shy away from the 610 medium heavy. It's right up there in action and versatility. So that's the 610 medium heavy solid tip X Pride. On to the next rod. Okay, our 4th rod in this minnow shaking series. We've made it to the $400-ish category. That X Pride was around 300 bucks. This one comes in at $450-ish. We cheated a little bit, but this is a standout in that $400 to $500 category. And it's a little bit more technique specific, if that makes sense, a technique inside of a technique, than the rods we've talked about thus far. This is a very light rod, very specific to your very small, almost Japanese style presentations for shaking a minnow. This is the depth gain element. It's a 6.5 light, and what's different about this rod is they are not calling it an extra fast. That is not the route they went. This is a regular action. So we've come to learn, or the industry has told us, that an extra fast action is what you want for shaking a minnow. Depth says no. Their minnow shaking rods are a regular action. You're going to see that on the wall. I can see it in hand here. It is very different than the rods we've seen thus far, but that is what the popular trend is over in Japan, and we're going to see what it looks like against the rods we've bent so far. So the depth gain element, this is their light shaking element, and it came in at 3.4 ounces. 6.5, super short rod. It is counterbalanced, so it feels great, but that does add to that weight a little bit. So depth gain element, let's take it to the wall. All right, we're back with that depth gain element, 6.5 light, regular bend. They do make this in a 6.5 medium light as well. That is probably the more versatile rod again, and we are currently sold out. But this is a very cool rod that's perfect for your ultra light type minnows. Our videographer Ethan was just telling me about a trip he went on with some anglers from Evergreen, and this is the style rod they use for their minnow shaking. Super light and super moderate. And to be honest, I don't see exactly how that correlates with shaking a minnow, but I do see how it correlates with landing fish. This is going to bow up right away as soon as you set the hook on a fish, and the chances of them coming off are very low. Casting wise, you're going to be able to cast a lure a mile and pretty accurate with such a soft bend to it. The other thing to note about these gain elements is that they are a 2-piece rod. They're jointed right at the handle here. It's a very popular style of rod in Japan. Almost all of them have a connection right at the handle. And that really doesn't bother me too much. The blank itself is 1 piece. The guides are all aligned. So really no hesitation there. The depth gain element is a cool one if you're looking for a JDM style rod that has a more parabolic action to it. These depth gain element rods are not to be slept on. The 6.5 light regular or the 6.5 medium light regular, when we get them back in, cool rods from Depths, that $450 price point. All right, we're moving on to the spendiest rod of the video. You don't care what the price is, you want the best of the best. We've got it here for you. This is the Daiwa AGS 610 light. They call it a fast action, but I'm already tending to disagree with that. We'll take it to the wall and check. This one came in at 3.3 ounces. So the X Pride is 3.2 ounces, around 300 bucks. This one is a couple $100 more, 3.3 ounces. Both are ridiculously light. So I wouldn't think too much about that, but this does come with those AGS guides, super lightweight, super sensitive, a little more brittle than other guides. We talked about it in the past, but these things are awesome. So it does also come with a stinger tip, which is why I'm questioning that fast action. We'll see it on the wall here, but the 610 light fast action Daiwa AGS, it's labeled as a Ned rig rod. It's not my style of Ned rig rod, but I think it would be a killer minnow shaking rod. Other people around the office here have used it for shaking a minnow and loved it. So the Ned rig rod and the Daiwa AGS lineup, let's take it to the rod wall. All right, we're back. The Daiwa AGS 610 light fast action, their Ned rig rod. And you can tell right away that stinger tip is definitely there. It's cool, they actually wrap the guides in a red color at the tip, and you can visually see when, detect a bite if you're dragging a Ned rig or shaking a minnow. Just a cool little touch that Daiwa did, but I see why they label it a fast, but I could also see extra fast. It almost has a dual action to it. If you just bend the tip of the rod in the slightest manner, it's just that tip section bending. But if you load into it, that looks like a fast action to me. So I can see why they said fast action. Also wouldn't bat an eye if they labeled it an extra fast. This is another one similar to that St. Croix Bass X, where I think you could do pretty much anything with it. Probably more on the lighter side. I would be hesitant to throw those 7-8 inch minnows on it just because that tip section is super light. But in that 3, 4, 5, 6 inch realm, I think this thing's money. It is pricey. Like we said earlier, this thing comes at 600 bucks. So it's not for everybody, but if you're looking for one of the lightest, best balanced rods and you want the best of the best for shaking a minnow, the Daiwa is definitely up there. All these rods I wouldn't be scared to throw on my boat for any of these price points, but the Daiwa at that heftier price point is definitely, just feel-wise and balance-wise, a step above. But that is going to wrap it up for this week's rod bending. We are looking at the comments. We want you to leave what we should be doing next. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, if you enjoy what we've been doing, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time back at the rod wall.